All right. Hey, Matt Sitter here, CEO of AFN. At AFN, we believe that change is where opportunity happens. And the best way to find opportunity in change is a network that's diverse in experience, expertise, and perspective. And one of the things that we work to do here is to bring the perspective of many different people forward so that we can understand new things about the world and find additional opportunities that are out there. Today, I have Brenda Darden Wilkerson with me. She recently won our award, the Patty Brandmaier Resilience Award. Brenda, awesome to have you here.
Thank you so much, Matt, and I'm honored.
I want to take just a second and describe Patty Brandmaier for folks out there. So she was a senior executive and leader in the Central Intelligence Agency for over 30 years. As you can imagine, she dealt with some pretty hard things. But she became an expert and executive coach on improving leadership and optimizing performance for individuals and teams. She was a personal friend of mine, passed away in March of 2023 from a battle with pancreatic cancer. But the thing that is so impressive that I take away from her life was that she always found purpose in doing hard things. And she thought about the things that she did that matter, and she constantly picked herself up as well. And so we wanted to be able to celebrate her with our Patty Brandmaier Resilience Award. So, Brenda, congratulations on winning. What do you think about this? How's it feel?
Well, thank you, Matt. And I mean, it's hard to put into words how I feel when you first shared with me that the fact that I would even be considered for such was outside the realm of what I was thinking about. When I think about sheroes like Patty, um, to be able to be considered in the same mindset of someone like Patty is overwhelming and very humbled, very unexpected. Um, the excellence of her life is one that we can all pattern ourselves after. And I, for one, am honored to even know about her and to learn about her life, and then to learn how perhaps I could walk a little closer to what she did for others.
Well, and I know that you don't do your work for recognition, right? You find a lot of reward in just the things that you do. In terms of thinking about where the Anita Borg Foundation is, what do you think this means for that organization?
Well, I mean, as I was thinking about this, it makes me reflect on what I must do and the organization must do to ensure that we can have the impact on the world that we're called to have. I think that's what Patty did. I think, when I learned more about her and I found out how she started out, I'm sure when she started in her role, she wasn't thinking, I'm prepared to be around when a 9/11 starts.
Yeah, no
And
kidding.
I'm going to be ready to do all that I can. But her life exemplified that level of preparation. And so for us as an organization, we want to be ready with all of the twists and turns that come in life to be able to have an impact on people because whether we're an organization that's adjacent to tech, and many times people think of tech outside of humanity, we do not. So we believe that we have to be ready, we have to be prepared to support people no matter what happens so that the tech ecosystem can be all it should be in support of humanity.
Yeah, great point. Like the reason why we've got this industry is to support people.
That's right.
So great segue. What do you love about the tech industry? Why is this where you have chosen to spend your career?
Well, it was actually quite accidental that I ended up in the tech industry. As per my upbringing, I was supposed to be in the medical profession, and I had accepted that mantle from my parents and was studied and ready to do it. But the reason why I thought being a doctor would be a good thing would have been to be in support of people. But as I looked at how the industry developed within our country, I didn't necessarily see that. played out every day in the way that medicine is practiced. And so, halfway through being a pre-med in undergraduate school, I looked around and said, wait, if I'm not going to be a doctor, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I looked at what I had to study in preparation. And luckily, as a biomedical engineering major, which was my first major, I since changed it, I had to take 2 programming classes. And I thought, that's interesting. And it didn't necessarily jive with my love to support people, but it did pique my curiosity around solving problems. I am a problem solver. And I'm also a creative. And you would think computer science and creativity very much intertwined. And so that's how I got started in the industry. But as I got into the industry, again, I saw where it was important, how we could take the skill sets of creating software or hardware and serve people. And so it turned out to be, it's been my life's work. I've been in or adjacent to the industry from the beginning.
Great. And so when we're thinking about the tech industry, so you're loving the opportunity to solve problems. Obviously, we've got new trends that are coming along all the time, right? A couple of years ago, people couldn't get enough of talking about blockchain stuff. Now we're talking about AI all the time. What has you optimistic about the technology industry?
Well, again, I'm going to point back to the people. I'm always optimistic about the work that has been done in the tech industry by pioneers, like Anita Borg, the namesake of my organization that I lead. She was a computer scientist. And, while she was a creator in some of the major industries supporting computer science, she also thought about who should be involved in creating those technologies and spent a major part of her life pushing for that. I think of people like Jane Margolis, who is a sociologist, but has had an outsized impact on technology because she's driven towards the ethics of who gets to green light certain technologies, who gets to learn it, therefore who gets to have impact on our world. I mean, there's pioneers like Katherine Johnson, who made sure that the space race was won in the United States. Gladys West, without whom we probably could not find our way to work. Lisa Galopter, who was the pioneer of Shockwave, which was the precursor of online video. These are people who took the power of tech and have solved problems, created opportunities for people. And so I'm optimistic that as the technologies continue to develop, they'll be developed by people who will be thinking about how to serve other people.
Excellent. So when we're thinking about the changing nature of the technology industry, I'd say one of the things that probably upended other industries more than tech itself was the pandemic, right? Everyone had to figure out how to work from home. We all had to figure out how to use Zoom and things like that.
Right.
And so that forced people to build a new skill set that they might not have had before. What do you think is the changing skill set that's required in technology? What are we going to have to be successful over the next 10 years that we might not have had to focus on as much in the previous 10?
Well, we're going to have to figure out how to balance, the current theme of technology right now. Technology has always been historically centered around one main technological breakthrough, something that somebody's really excited about. And right now that's AI, right? And so since everything is centered around AI is creating automation, it's changing the nature of work. One of the things that we're going to have to do is figure out how to keep up with those changes and keep life moving around the planet in different places in spite of a lot of these rapid changes. I think that automation, it will continue to be impactful. Traditional programming, as we knew it, as nerds like I did it, has made way for things like low code and no code platforms so that more work can be done in less time or less lines of code. And I think similar to those types of tools, automation is going to continue to attempt to optimize performance and to make things better. Now, one of the challenges of technology is that we learn how to do things really fast. We get really fascinated with our inventions, and we as it's been said by one, move fast and break things. And
Mhm.
so I feel the leaders who really make a difference around technology are going to at some point stop and figure out how to build some ethics and support for maybe not breaking things or people as much as we create these amazing technologies. I think that machine generated automation has created a lot of opportunity. It's also going to take away a lot of opportunity. And so we're going to have to figure out ways to make sure that it continues to be trained correctly. We know that there have been a lot of biases built into those technologies, so there's going to be work to try to fix those. The more you automate things for good, there are bad actors who take those very same things and do bad things with them, and so cybersecurity is going to play a big role in how we develop our technology, making sure that the code is safe and secure and all of those things. And then I think, there's so much I could go on and on, but I think that we had most of my career has been centered around the software. Software has been king. I believe we're going to start to see more effort put in around the hardware. I mean, in order to have AI, you got to have really fast chips. Well, that's hardware. So there's always going to be more to do that is disruptive, either for good, we're also challenging. So we're not going to be bored. Let me put it that way.
I think that, as we're thinking about technology in general, so innovation is at the core of what we're thinking about. There will be consequences, as you've alluded to, both intended and unintended consequences that are out there, which I think is a really good segue back to thinking about resilience and being prepared to deal with these things that come up. How do you maintain resilience in your role as a CEO? What do you do to help yourself deal with these intended and unintended consequences that you're seeing?
Well, I mean, you're going to think I'm just ringing the same bell, but it's always people first. For me, it's always been people first. I think, business is business, and people in business, their job is to succeed at whatever it is that they're trying to do, whether it's sell a product or a service. I think that sometimes that balance is tipped towards making sure that that thing is a success without thinking about as you mentioned, unintended consequences on people. So for me, I'm always thinking about how's this going to roll for the folks and which folks. It's either the people who are using the product, who are not using the product, but should be using the product, the employees who make the product. So it's always about the people. I'm always thinking about the concentric circles. Like in my business as a nonprofit leader, we are first in support of, or thought to be in support of, Tech Women First. Bigger than that, but they're our community that we're focused on. But Tech women are more than Tech women. They're people, they're citizens, they have lives, they have families. And so I always think about how do my decisions or the decisions that I don't want to make, how are they impactful on not just the work life of the women, but their personal lives. When it gets hard, I just think, it's my turn. There's so many people who've come before me who've done the hard work to get us to where we are right now. I mentioned some other sheroes of mine. I mean, if you think about Hedley Lamar, she was an actress. If you look her up right now, you're going to see some sexy pose of her, and they're going to mention some movie. But she was the one who designed frequency hopping, without which we wouldn't have Bluetooth and we wouldn't have Wi-Fi. And when I think about the likely disrespect that she got for being a woman, for being an actress, for being attractive, and versus the contributions that she's made to all of our lives and continues to make, and she got very little credit. When I think whatever's hard going on for me, probably not that hard. So I always think like,
yeah. So when you're thinking about, so I think that we can do a good job of inspiring ourselves. Hey, the people who came before us,
yeah,
we get to stand on their shoulders. We get to do good things, sometimes great things around that. You still get tired once in a
yes, I
while.
do.
How do you recharge your batteries?
I study, I read a lot. Um, I recharge my batteries by realizing that my vision is always bigger than me. My vision is bigger than just the team that I get to work with. I multiply every person I touch by 10.
All right.
So I think about their families. I think about the checkout woman at the grocery store who's got a job because we're supporting. I think that way. I get myself to think that way. I also think urgently. I think when things are hard, you start to procrastinate because you start to worry. And then I ask myself, well, what if I don't do it?
Right. When we're thinking about Anita Borg culturally for the organization, how do you encourage resilience because everyone's got different levels, everyone's got, as you mentioned, we all got things that are going on at home, things like that.
Yeah.
How do you encourage people to understand when they've got to rebuild their resilience, when they've got to understand that, like, hey, I need to actually do something different right now to make sure that the organization can work the way it's supposed to?
Yeah. I always start with love. I deal with each individual based upon their humanity. I think the best thing that you can give anybody is a choice. Some leaders, when things get hard, it's, we've got to do this. We've got to do this. I do some of that preaching too, but I always then give everybody a choice. Mm-hmm. Especially when there are weird turns in the road. And I can say, you might not have signed up for this. But here's what we got to do. But I'm going to give you a choice. You get to decide. You get to make your own vision about why this makes sense to you. And of course, the best thing anyone can do is tell stories of resilience, of nature and nurture. People need to hear where they're not the only one that might have doubts or worries or stresses or thinking differently than they started out. And so when they hear about what other people have done, it's just like Patty. Hearing about Patty's life, unfortunately, I never got to meet her, but I get to learn about her and I get to be encouraged by her. I give people perspective. I always help people keep their eye on the big picture because many times when challenges come about, it's a distraction from what we're really trying to do. And so, how do we keep our eye on the prize? That means that prize has got to be bigger than you.
When we think about resilience for what your organization does. So as an example, I know that you guys put on a number of very high quality events. That's where a lot of the focus has been for the organization. But taking the pandemic as an example, all of a sudden in-person events were really difficult to be able to do. Yeah. How did you guys think about how you start to reframe the way the organization can work when one of the primary things that your organization did was no longer possible?
Right. It was no longer possible in the format that we had currently, right? And so, this is going to be a weird example, but if there's a physical emergency where somebody slides off the side of a mountain, this seems to sound really dramatic. You have to figure out a way to reach them. It's like, how do I reach them? When they were standing next to me, I could just reach out and shake their hand, but now they're down there and they're in danger. How do I reach them? And so the pandemic put a lot of people's existence in danger. And so the first and foremost thing was they're our community. We have to reach them. What do they need now? So the analysis is how can we help them now? And then yes, the big event was a big, big thing for such a long time. How do we not take that off the table? Oh, it's virtual. So, we actually helped several companies develop innovation in a way that had not been done. No one had done a 40,000 person event virtually.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were part of helping several companies figure out how to even do that. So that was a whole new
Right.
innovation. And so we also had to figure out how to keep people engaged during that time. They were home, they were isolated. What can we do? What does a tech woman need? Excuse me. What does a tech woman need at this moment? I need to take water. Excuse me. I think the most important thing was we didn't say, oh, I guess we can't do it.
Sure. Yeah.
I remember I was part of a CEO group, a different CEO group. And I was one of I think there were two nonprofits, everybody else was for profit. And it was just the end of March before it had really hit hard that, okay, we're in it now.
Yeah.
Sorry. And those other CEOs had already laid off 25% of their staff. And we depended 90% of our revenue on the event.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
hadn't occurred to me to start laying off people. So I think that's the thing. I don't think first about the bottom line. You could say that's not good business sense, but I thought first about the people that would not have what they need if we walked away. And so
Right.
we figured out a way.
Well, and one of the things that I take away is you were thinking about, hey, all right, priority has to change now for what the organization is. Now we're like the priority is reaching people, not getting people on one place at one time. We're going to reach people first, and then we can figure out how to actually help them congregate. But you had to think about how you were shifting those priorities pretty rapidly and get everyone focused around it. When we're thinking about your career path, if you could do it all over again, what's one of the things you would tell yourself is like, hey, Brenda, watch out for this as you go? What would you tell yourself?
I would say do not listen to the naysayers.
All right.
I mean, I think I learned this too late. Most naysayers are projecting. They don't know you. They don't know the gift that you've been given to work with. They don't know your motivations. You can listen, but you don't follow them. So that's the first thing. I was turned around by several naysayers or slowed down by several naysayers. I think the second thing, and this, I think a lot of women will relate to this, is, drop the perfectionism. There's no room for it. As computer scientists, as scientists, as innovators, you always start with an MVP and you rapidly, redo it and fix it, and update it and test it. But we don't necessarily do that with ourselves. So I would say, Brenda, give yourself some grace.
All right.
And then I would say, give yourself some power. Don't wait for other people to say, okay, Brenda, I see you've worked really hard now. You can, move ahead one space.
Right. Right.
Waste of time.
I frequently see things out in the world, and I think of you actually. One of the things that I have used as my favorite quote for a while now is "We are the ones we've been waiting for."
Mm-hmm.
And as I understand it, originally came from this poem written by June Jordan about Black South African women and children marching on Johannesburg in the 1950s.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that for them, existential threat, but them standing up and saying like, hey, we got to do this. As you said before, it makes it a little bit easier for me to say like, what I'm doing can't possibly be that hard. So
Right.
we can keep on moving. So Brenda, what's next for the Anita Borg Institute? For the next 10 years of its existence, what do you think's coming? What are the things that you want to be able to build to help drive progress even further forward?
Well, I mean, you asked me about it earlier. Innovation is not a nice to have, it's actually required because things are always changing. And so I see our organization being key to facilitating true innovation. Generally, it's interesting. I won't name the name of the company. If I named it, you'd know it.
Okay.
One of the leaders there, they have an organization that is all about spinning off new companies, innovating new products and spinning off new companies. And I know a person that worked there. One day, this person said that the leader came out and said, "We are not doing enough. There's not enough new stuff coming out." And this person said, they looked around and said, "Well, everybody here looks the same. Everybody here laughs at the same jokes. Everybody here nods when
Yep.
the person starts talking. We're one mind. We need to be of several minds and backgrounds and experiences." And so being able to facilitate that richness of perspective is something that I think our organization does, because we convene just multiple minds around a particular topic, which we're about to do around AI. And it's not just about, who's going to create the fastest product to the market. It's about all of the things that AI could do or might do right or wrong. Let's start thinking about those. And let's start to think about, how can we facilitate the good stuff? And how can we mitigate the bad stuff?
Right.
And we won't know how to do that if we don't have different types of people in the room that are representative of the needs of people across the globe, because there isn't anything it won't touch. So I see our organization doing that. Being that convener, being that leader. I also see us supporting small companies that will innovate and do the types of things that people need. And we want to be there to help facilitate that.
Great. Well, and it just aligns so well with, what organizations are supposed to do generally. We're supposed to bring different experiences and expertise together. Like if everyone was the same, we wouldn't be able to innovate.
That's right.
If everyone in your company was from the finance team, you couldn't do much else, right?
That's
So you
right.
got to bring these folks together. And I think by its nature, by the fact that we have different languages that we use, there's going to be disagreement. Our job as leaders is to help create productive disagreement for folks.
That's
How
right.
do we actually help get to those things that we're actually learning from each other?
Right. I mean, and I think it's part of what you do for us at AFN is you bring people from around the world together to have conversations. And I think we get things we don't even know we were going to get
Right.
because of our differences, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Brenda, congrats again on this award. Really is meaningful for us to be able to recognize you in this way. And we love having you in AFN. So thanks for being a part of our organization and looking forward to lots more good times with you.
Well, I love being part of AFN. Thank you so much for what you do for all of us. And once again, I am honored and humbled to be recognized in this way.
Great.
Thank
Thanks.
you.